very important subjects from a legal perspective and also from a practical perspective. We have with us our expert speaker, CA K. Jayamohan, who would take us through this session. And if there are any questions going forward, we will take it as part of the session. So as part of Team Zentax Clinic, we are extremely happy to have a very large audience consecutively for the 57th session. So it has not been the first, second, or the third session, but consecutively for the last 57 weeks, we have been having our Zentax talks. And at this session, we are extremely privileged to thank and welcome you all for this session. We will be having our budget session on the 1st of February or immediately thereafter, once the union budget is made public, and we welcome you all for the budget session also. We request you all to follow us on our WhatsApp channel, where all the updates relating to GST and all our updates relating to Zentax Clinic are also posted. We will share the link with respect to the WhatsApp channel in the chat box, and we request you all to follow so that you can get all the timely and relevant updates. Over to you, Jayamohan, about the subject. Thank you, please.
Thank you, sir. I once again welcome one and all to this webinar. So I'll share my PPT. Hope the PPT is visible for everyone. So today's topic is unblocking of ITC, e-way bill, and e-invoice. So as Aravind sir has rightly said, he gave an introduction about what the topic is all about. And see, to go by the wordings, plain wordings of the topic that we have chosen today, what do you generally understand about it? See, there is a confusion. Why I am talking about this specific word is that there is a confusion whether blocking amounts to recovery or blocking amounts to a temporary withholding of credit available in your electronic credit ledger. I am primarily I'm talking about the input tax credit, blocking of input tax credit. So this is the major question that we used to get from our clients and also other people who are in the industry. So just to clarify on this, it is only a temporary withholding of credit, a certain amount of credit, which is available in your electronic credit ledger. Recovery of tax is only possible through an issuance of show cause notice and thereafter an order by the proper jurisdictional officer enunciated under section 73 and 74. So section 73 and 74 talks about the recovery of tax. So through that process only the recovery can be made. So it is clarified that blocking of ITC is a temporary withholding of a certain amount of input tax credit that is already available in your electronic credit ledger. So what does blocking really means? So it is a situation where you have 10 lakhs of balance in your input tax electronic credit ledger, whereas a certain amount is blocked by the authorized officer. So this amount will not be eligible for utilization. That is the meaning. So how is this being done on practical, on the ground level? How is this actually done? In the GSTN portal, if you log in to your electronic credit ledger statement and look through your statement, you can see that a debit entry is passed by an officer, whereby a certain amount is debited to your electronic credit ledger, it means that it is put on hold. Generally, when the debit entry is passed, at the time, it is passed at the time of utilization of ITC for payment in GSTR 3B. And also when you are filing DRC 03 and you are utilizing the balance available in your electronic credit ledger, a debit entry is passed. So apart from this, this is also a reason for a debit entry, whereas it is not permanently removed, it will be held in abeyance. That is the meaning. The main and important point, another main and important point with respect to blocking of ITC is that it comes as a surprise. So on a fine morning, you might be traveling to your office or you might be attending a meeting. So suddenly a message pops up in your mobile phone saying that this particular officer has blocked certain amount of ITC in your electronic credit ledger. So with only a very limited amount of information which is shared to you through the message. So this is how it is communicated. So it will come to you as a surprise. It is not made by issuing a proper intimation beforehand. So this is the screenshot. This is the screenshot of the debit entry in electronic credit ledger. I have captured it from one of the GST registered taxpayers portal. So you can very well see that there is blocked, it is written in blue color letters. So it means that there is a hyperlink behind that. So it is blocked and the amount is also, and you can see that it is shown below the respective tax head. So this is the blocked amount view, which is taken from the electronic credit ledger. So you can also go into the ledgers view in your GST portal, and there a separate item called as blocked credit is also there. You can choose that option, and once you choose that and also the period, then the detailed other details of the reason for blocking that ITC is also given. So here what you can see, the date, then you can see which officer has blocked the ITC and also the reason. Reason mentioned here is very brief. It is only one line. You can barely understand anything from this reason. It has just stated that the supplier found non-functioning. That is the reason which is mentioned. So most of the times when the taxpayer gets this kind of a message and they go into the portal to check the status, they are not able to understand what is the reason or how this amount has been ascertained by the officer who has passed the debit entry to the electronic credit ledger. So this is always a issue, and this also, as I already told you, comes as a surprise to you. So how to handle this? We will first talk about the legal aspects. From which section or which rule gives the power to such officer to block the input tax credit in your credit ledger? And also, I have been mentioning the term officer repeatedly. Who is such officer? Is there any specific officer who has been entrusted with the powers to do to pass a debit entry or to block your electronic credit ledger? So we will see these things in sequence. So Rule 86A talks about the situation where the officer can block the ITC. Sorry. Okay, there was a slight background noise. So we will continue. When the ITC was fraudulently availed or is ineligible due to non-existent supplier or due to fictitious documentation, or the ITC which is claimed by the recipient is based on the invoices issued without actual receipt of goods or services, or where the claim of ITC involves contravention of CGST Act or rules mentioned therein. So for these reasons, which has been stated under Rule 86A, the authorized officer may go on to pass a debit entry to your electronic credit ledger. So these are the major reasons which has been listed in the rule. So now we will go on to see who is the authorized officer. So as per the plain wordings which is given in the Act, which is given under the rules, the commissioner or authorized officer not below the rank of assistant commissioner, if they have reason to believe that the credit has been availed fraudulently or is ineligible, that those conditions we had already looked into in the previous slide. So here we have to see the authorized officer and who is not below the rank of assistant commissioner, and also reason to believe. This reason to believe is also a very, very integral part of initiation of this blocking exercise. We will come to that point in a later slide. So now we will see who is the officer. There is a notification which is being issued under TN GST Act, which has given, through which the commissioner has given the powers to the assistant commissioner. As you can see from the notification, as per the sub-rule 1A and C of Rule 86A, the power to block input tax credit has been authorized by the commissioner to the assistant commissioner. Here the structure, the hierarchy of officers in each state might be different. So here the assistant commissioner, this is for the state of Tamil Nadu, assistant commissioner review and appeal. Then you can see the deputy commissioner and also the divisional intelligence wing, the assistant commissioner of the divisional intelligence wing. So these are the officers. You might have encountered a situation wherein you have got a message, and when you try to reach out to your jurisdictional officer, you are unable to know why your ITC has been blocked, and that person, whoever is your officer, is not aware of such a proceeding. So this might happen because it might have been blocked by an officer from elsewhere who would be working for an intelligence wing also. Because see, generally what you can see is that there is an inspection wing, inspection and intelligence wing, which operates separately. So this is the first point where after an inspection proceeding, a particular supplier is found non-existing, or that supplier is found to have been raising invoices from an unregistered place of business. So for this reason, a proceeding might be initiated against that person by the intelligence or inspection officers, and an order also might get passed against that person. So if an order is passed against that person, then here comes an interesting part. Who are all his customers will also be investigated by the, not investigated, who are all the customers of this supplier, this particular supplier. It will also be analyzed by the inspection department officers, and in the chain will be tracked. Like this is a supplier A, for example, the inspection is being carried out at the place of supplier A, and the officers has found out that B, C, and D are the customers of supplier A. So what happens? Since supplier A has been found as non-existent or not doing business from a registered place of business, for that reason, they will conclude that the ITC passed on by supplier A to B, C, and D is also fake and it is ineligible. That is how they arrive at this blocking of ITC. And once this information is passed by the officer to the higher authorities, the authorized officer, as per this notification, would take action and block the ITC or the respective amount of ITC in the electronic credit ledger of the customers who are all in that chain. This is how it operates practically. So in the notification also, you can see point number A and point number C has been specifically mentioned. So what does A talks about? It talks about a situation where the supplier, the recipient has claimed input tax credit on the basis of invoices or debit notes or any other document as per Rule 36 issued by a registered person who has been found non-existent or conducting any business from the place for which registration and any other place for which registration has been obtained. So this is one reason. Another one, without receipt of goods or services or both. So you keep in mind this point alone, you keep in mind. I will come back to this point in a subsequent slide where I will link it with the other practical aspects wherein you will get a better understanding or insight about what you have to be careful of. What are the points which you have to be careful of while ensuring the claim of ITC is foolproof or is free from any kind of future litigations. So the second point, point C, the registered person availing the credit of input tax credit has been found non-existent. See, A talks about the supplier and C talks about the recipient. So if the recipient is also non-existent, this blocking can be initiated by the officer. So we will now discuss about the proof or what you have to maintain so as to gain immunity from your claim of ITC becoming ineligible. So the important point here, I am not talking about immunity from blocking. See, blocking will anyway happen because it is a surprise act which is initiated by the authorized officer. So that is also based on the investigation or intelligence information gathered by other officer from an completely independent supplier. So you cannot gain immunity from the blocking of ITC. But what happens after the blocking of ITC? You have to prove that the burden of proof of claim of ITC lies with the recipient. So for that reason, you have to prove that the ITC claim is genuine and it is as per enunciated under section 16 subsection 2. You have satisfied all the conditions. You will have to prove these points to the satisfaction of the officer so as to get your input tax credit unblocked. So I will just link this point with the second point which I mentioned in the earlier slide, like without receipt of goods or services or both. So to prove the receipt of goods or services, here I have listed certain conditions to which could act as an evidence or as a proof to proof so that you can submit all the documents to the officer to ensure your claim of ITC is not fictitious. So first one, these points I have compiled from various high court decisions. It is not separately given under any act or rule. It has been compiled. So a copy of lorry receipt. See, this is one important document which is repeatedly and sought after by the GST officers. Whenever you go for a personal hearing, whenever you go to appear on behalf of a client to the officers, to prove the claim of validity of ITC, the officers ask for the lorry receipt. In which vehicle did the goods come? So that is the major question which is asked by them. And also the proof of payment of freight charges. So you, what you do, you have to be mindful of this aspect. And for every inward supply, if possible, you keep a separate track of the lorry receipt or whichever document that is being handed over to the transporter to ensure that such goods has been loaded from place A and which has been transported through this route and it has reached place B. So like that, it will be easier for you to demonstrate before the officer that actually the goods have been transported and it has reached your place of business. So a copy of inward e-waybill can also be maintained, and this can also act as a proof. See, if you go and check your GST portal, all the documents which are generated by you, like e-invoices, e-waybill, everything is available in a report format. But the inward e-waybill, it is not made available in the GST portal. You cannot generate it or take it in bulk. See, generally what we do as a standard practice while filing GSTR1 return is that the e-waybills generated by us is reconciled with the e-invoice generated and also sales as per books. This is a standard practice that we follow at the time of filing GSTR1. Whereas at the time of reconciling ITC as per GSTR2B, at that point, we are not really looking into the finer aspects such as inward e-waybill. Not inward e-waybill, the e-waybill generated by your supplier. That aspect, the e-waybill number, it is not being tracked. See, in certain companies who follow standard operating procedures, they might have all the documentation and all the physical copies of e-waybill available with them. But as a standard practice, please try to maintain a register of e-waybill that comes with your supplier's invoice, so that at a later point, it will help you to claim, to demonstrate the validity of your input tax credit if at all a notice comes to you. So another important point is the vehicle number that is mentioned in the e-waybill. So the part B of e-waybill bears a vehicle number, and this vehicle number may be used to check the type of vehicle and other particulars in Vahan portal. So we generally see that the GST officers used to cross-verify these aspects and also used to ensure that the amount as per the invoice and the quantity which is also mentioned is correlated with the type of vehicle which has been used to transport the goods to the place of business. So this might also come to your help on a later stage where the question or validity of ITC is in question. So then another point, you can also keep the email exchanges. See, where in certain companies, what we see as a general practice is that emails are exchanged at the time of taking a quotation or confirming an order, or if at all you have already received a PO and there is some kind of modification which are made to the PO, that communication is also channelized through email. So this situation, the email can also act as a proof for ensuring the receipt of goods or services, especially in the case of services where it is not really tangible in nature. Maybe there are some deliverables which are associated with the services. Those deliverables can definitely act as a proof of receipt. But the emails are also an important part of this trail, which can help you further in a point where the claim of ITC is put to question. Then a copy of purchase order. Obviously, those who follow the practice of issuing a purchase order or receiving a purchase order would obviously have a copy of purchase order with them. Then the copy of payment details. See, in the industries like steel industry, where the weighment plays a key and important role, the vehicle first goes to the weighbridge, then gets the weighment and come back, then the vehicle is loaded with the steel materials, and then it is again taken back to the weighbridge, then the weight is taken. So like this, the weight is ascertained for a material which takes the help of weighbridge for taking their payment. So these slips which the weighbridge issues, you can keep this as a annexure to your purchase invoice, or if at all your supplier is the person who do all these payment activities, you can ensure that you can also get a copy of this payment slips from your supplier and annex it to the copy of documents, so that it will also help you to get immunity and also to prove the legitimacy of your claim of input tax credit in a future date. So proof of payment through banking channel, obviously, most of the times the proof of payment through banking channels is available with the suppliers and the recipient also. So that should not be a problem in general. And another important point, which I can definitely say from the practical experience, when we have visited the SME clients or even certain MSME clients for that matter, and also other big corporates, the important point that we have noted at the gate is that each and every vehicle that comes into the premises, factory premises of that company where the big corporate is functioning, they used to make an entry. They used to take a photograph of that vehicle. The vehicle number is written, and also if there is any kind of invoice with the goods are being received, an entry is made in the inward register. So a gate pass or a gate pass is also given to that driver to take the vehicle inside the factory premises. So this is an activity, a standard activity, which is followed by big corporates. I also urge all the MSME and SME audience who are here to follow a similar practice. See, the same practice might not be practically feasible, but a similar practice will be of great help when you can clearly demonstrate that you regularly follow a practice of making the inward entry whenever a vehicle is arrived from outside. And all these things at the time of occurrence, if you make an entry, it will be easier for you to take a copy and reproduce it for as a additional evidence for substantiating your claim of ITC. So we in the last year we came across a case where the ITC of a particular client was blocked. So the authorities were central authorities, and the officer who was blocked, as I told you earlier, we did not know who was that officer who had blocked. Then after contacting our jurisdictional officer, we got the information about what is the reason for which ITC was blocked, and it was due to this non-filing of it was due to the reason where the supplier was found non-existent. So the supplier was also from the same state and same district. What we initially asked to the department officers was that our jurisdictional officer, see, this supplier is currently present and they are also doing business. The department might have initiated recovery proceedings against them. So if you recover ITC from us, the ITC is only blocked, but if you recover from us, and this blocking has also temporarily resulted in halt of business. See, at the time of filing GSTR 3B, if I am not able to utilize the balance of credit ledger, balance available in my credit ledger, it creates a big hardship for me. And I will not be able to make the payment of output tax liability to that extent. Then I will have to run elsewhere and finance it or arrange funds from some other means. So it will be of great difficulty. And I was trying to explain the officer all these issues, but what I got was only the details of supplier and the reason for blocking ITC. Then after that, there was no clear procedure which was followed by the officer also. See, if you receive a intimation or if you receive a show cause notice, at least you know in which form you have to reply, or in how many days you have to reply, and on which date a personal hearing will be afforded to you. And after personal hearing, you might have to wait for the order for a particular set of a time duration. But what you can be assured of is that you have made all the submissions. You have also submitted all the documents and other evidence you have to prove your claim of ITC, and you can be fairly confident that about the outcome of the case, whether it would come in your favor or it will go against you. So these are the things you can take a calculated risk based on that. But in this situation, in the CGST, we had to go to the inspector, then superintendent, then again to the deputy commissioner. So first, the process that they told us was like, I have to submit all the details that relied upon details based on which I had claimed input tax credit from my supplier. I have to give all that details to the inspector. So he, being the field officer, that person would verify and ensure the legitimacy of claim of ITC made by me. And after that, this inspector would share a verification report to the superintendent. After that, the superintendent would forward it to the deputy commissioner, and upon satisfaction, the deputy commissioner would pass an order which is favorable to us or not. And based on this, the ITC, which was blocked earlier, would be unblocked. This activity took around 3 to 4 months time, only for the reason that we were unaware. In the first case, the supplier, not us, the supplier was unaware, and also there was no prescribed SOP or procedures based on which we can approach the officers to get the input tax credit unblocked. So that was the reason. So I again urge all of our audience to maintain all the proofs related to claim of input tax credit. It is of utmost importance. Even if you go for a writ petition in the High Court, in many of the cases, the High Court is asking the officer to verify and pass the order based on merits. They are only remanding the cases back to officers. They are not talking about the eligibility of ITC in the cases where the supplier has not filed the GSTR 3B, the supplier is found to be non-existent or found to be doing business from an unregistered place of business. So all these situations, it is of the recipient's responsibility to maintain the proof of claim of input tax credit, and further, if at all required, to submit it and satisfy the officer to come out of such situations. So what are the additional safeguards that you could do? See, as I told earlier, when you get an invoice from your supplier, also see which is the address that is mentioned in the invoice. That address, you can log into your GST portal and use search taxpayer facility and check whether that address has been added by your supplier in their GST portal, their GST registration. So it should either be a principal place of business or one of the additional place of businesses which is used by them. So if it is not if this address is not present in any of these lists, then kindly inform your supplier and also ask them to get it registered. Otherwise, at a later point of time, the input tax credit that you have claimed might be questioned by the officers, and it might result into an ineligible ITC situation. And also, these days, you can see that there is a fast tag facility for vehicles which pass through the the roads where the toll is being collected. And also in certain transporters, they use a RFID tag or a GPS system to track the vehicle. So those kind of reports, if at all it is accessible, you can get it on a and save it for your purpose, or you can also check whether it will be available on a later point of time also. If at all needed, you can rely on these reports to prove that a certain vehicle carrying the goods from place A to place B traveled through this route and which came to our factory premises. So that might also be a situation. So in another case which we handled, which was related to blocking of ITC, we were able to prove the legitimacy of ITC using the photographs and the video of the vehicle which was coming into the factory gate. So that was the pivotal proof that convinced the officer to believe that for certain these goods have been received and there is no fake transaction involved. So unblocking of electronic credit ledger. As I told you, in our practical situation, you have to satisfy the proper officer with all the evidence to unblock your electronic credit ledger, or there is another option. From the date of blocking your ITC, if 1 year has been elapsed, then the input tax credit which has been blocked will get unblocked by itself, because as per the provisions stated in Rule 86A, after an expiry of a period of 1 year, the blocked ITC will automatically be unblocked. But you have to be mindful of another situation where the proper officer can initiate a recovery proceeding and issue a notice under section 73 or 74 to recover the ITC. That will be an independent proceeding which is not associated to blocking of ITC. So even if the ITC is unblocked by itself without you taking any step, the officer might initiate action against you under section 73 or 74. What are the other issues related to Rule 86A? So one of the other major issue that we have come across is negative blocking. So what does this negative blocking mean? Say, for example, your electronic credit ledger is showing a balance of rupees 10 lakhs and the authorized officer has got information that you have received supplies from a non-existent dealer and the total amount of ITC passed on by that non-existent dealer to you amounts to 15 lakhs rupees. So at this point, when the officer passes a debit entry to your electronic credit ledger, the balance in your electronic credit ledger goes down to negative 5 lakh, because the credit already available is only 10 lakh and the debit entry passed by the officer is for 15 lakh. Then your electronic credit ledger shows a negative balance of 5 lakh rupees. So this entry or this situation was questioned by certain taxpayers at various high courts. So in the case law which I have mentioned here relates to Best Corp Science, and the verdict was given by the Delhi High Court. So in this case, the High Court, while verifying all the details submitted by the taxpayer, they told that there cannot be a negative liability situation, even in the circular which was issued in the manner which has to be, or the procedures which has to be followed by the officers while taking action based on Rule 86A. The ITC cannot, which is already available in the credit ledger, can only be blocked. You cannot block ITC which is not at all available in your credit ledger as balance. So what is the significance of this situation? See, if your electronic credit ledger is showing a negative balance, then in the subsequent month, when you are filing your GST or 3B return, that amount will add to your payment. So the ITC which you are claiming in that GSTR 3B will be first offset against this negative liability, and only after that if there is any excess balance which is available after offsetting this negative liability, that will only be available for you to offset your tax liability which is being reported in your GSTR 1. So this situation, it is a kind of a draconian situation. So the High Court gave relief to the taxpayer, and wherein the negative blocking is not possible, ITC can only be blocked to the extent which is available in your electronic credit ledger. And another point is that I had told you in the beginning of the discussion itself that this activity comes as a surprise to you. So you are not afforded a personal hearing opportunity before the blocking of ITC takes place. Only after the blocking of ITC, you are given a chance to take your documents and submit the documents, your other explanation, and all such aspects comes only after the event of blocking is taken place. So due to this reason, it is a kind of a draconian provision. So you have to be mindful. Whenever you claim ITC, you have to be diligent about your supplier also. See, many of the businesses, before onboarding a supplier to their ecosystem, they used to do a due diligence activity. See, these due diligence might be from a financial standpoint or also from a industry standpoint in which they operate. But there comes a necessity in the current contemporary situation. You have to do a due diligence from GST perspective also. You have to check whether your supplier is filing their GST returns correctly, whether they are compliant, whether they are doing the business from their registered place of business. All these things you have to be even more careful than your supplier himself. So that is the situation that we are in currently. Moving on to other aspect. What does reason to believe mean? So to invoke the power given under Rule 86A, the authorized officer should have a reason to believe, and it should not be merely based on a suspicion. So what does the reason to believe means? And this, as per the rule, this reason to believe should be recorded in writing. It has been specifically mentioned in the rule that the reason to believe should be recorded in writing. And in many of the cases which has gone up to the High Court has sought the reason to believe, which has been relied upon by the authorized officer to block the ITC. So in many of the cases, it was found that the intelligence information is gathered by one officer, but the order or the blocking of ITC is done by some other officer. So this is called as borrowed satisfaction. So it might be a technical term. I will try to explain it in a simple manner. For example, you are riding a motor vehicle and you are crossing a signal, and a random person is there and you are not wearing a helmet. So just assume a situation. So in this situation, a random person or a stranger who is standing in the middle of the road or crossing, that person is taking a photograph of you, and that person is informing the traffic police that you were not wearing helmet. So there, consider this situation, and I will bifurcate it into two scenarios where the stranger is going to the traffic police, and he's telling that the vehicle number he has the vehicle number, and the person who was riding this vehicle was not wearing helmet. This is the statement given to the traffic police by the stranger. So in this situation, the traffic police can either take into confidence about this statement and initiate an action of penalizing the particular the owner of the motor vehicle. So this is possible. In another situation, the stranger has taken a photograph, and the photograph is given to the officer, and that traffic police, and this person takes the CCTV footage of that junction, that's the signal, and he is verifying it with the footage, and then ensuring that to his satisfaction, that officer's satisfaction,